the blueprint for everyone who works or goes to school and just wants a day to skip it and not care and just have fun by themselves. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is the embodiment of a good time, how to have a break from reality and take control of your own happiness. And after almost 40 years, there's just something about it that pushes the message of how to let go. Welcome to Easily Entertained. I'm your host, Bryson Olson, here to talk about all things entertainment. Today, we are talking about Ferris Bueller's Day Off, a classic movie, I believe from 1986. Yes, it's pretty great. I think it's a good movie. I actually hadn't seen it until earlier this year, so I was kind of fairly new to watching it. I had heard about it, and obviously I've seen clips from it, but it wasn't until, I believe, it was either this year or late last year that I had seen it for the first time. But there are just some things that I think could be dived into a bit more when you're kind of thinking about the movie. So the kind of general message I'm getting into is how to let go. But I think the way they do that is pretty interesting, because it's kind of obvious that the story is about letting go and having fun. That's very much what the plot is. It's kids skip school with his friends and then go out and have fun. And that's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot that goes on, but kind of how they tell that message rather than just through Ferris is overall, they tell that message through the characters. And so let's start with Conduit of Reality. Ferris is the main character, despite what some analytic type stuff tells you from other people. While I may disagree, maybe they're right. A lot of people try to think that Cameron is the main character because he sees the most growth throughout the story. Because Ferris kind of has his thought process at the beginning.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
And he still has that philosophy by the end of the movie. So Ferris doesn't really change, but he's definitely the main character because we're following him the entire time. It's about him and his shenanigans. But a lot of people try to say that Cameron is the main character just because he does go through a little bit of a journey where he's kind of like afraid of his dad and afraid of what people may think of him, but then kind of learns to let go by the end. You see what I'm getting at? He's not the main character of the story, but he is for us. He's for the audience. He is the conduit for us of reality. He represents who the general human population is. There are a very few select people that are like Ferris, where everything works out for them. No matter what they do, it's going to work out. In fact, you may know some of those people or someone who acts like those people. Cameron is not that way. He represents you. He represents me. He represents the general person. He goes through actual growth. And us as the audience, and to the people that kind of think that Cameron's more the main character, the reason that they're doing that is because his character is specifically designed to latch on to, because he is you. That's why you enjoy how he overcomes his fears. You know, they go through the movie and they take his dad's car, which Cameron fights tooth and nail for at the beginning to be like, let's not do this. He knows the mileage on the car. That's terrible. But Ferris does it anyway. And he kind of goes along with it. And then when he finds out that the miles are way too high because some people were taking a joyride, he loses his mind. And by the end, like, he kind of has to come to terms with it. And he's like, okay, we'll try and fix it. And they try and fix it. It doesn't work. And just the idea of everything not working out kind of gets flipped because Cameron's kind of the pessimist. Cameron's the pessimist, Ferris is the optimist. So everything's kind of going wrong for Cameron, but he finally makes a switch. He's like us, where sometimes everything's going wrong, but just one thing goes right, or one mindset goes right. And we're going to be talking a bit more about mindsets later in the episode, so stay tuned for that. But it's just interesting how Cameron just has that journey. It's very realistic. It's very natural to witness, and you can show a lot of empathy for it just because you can put yourself in those shoes. Maybe you have an experience that's almost exactly like Cameron's life, or maybe you don't have one that's an exact comparison, but it's fairly similar, and it allows you to just step into his shoes and understand more about how Cameron's feeling, how the world is for him, and like put yourself in high school and that was happening. Your parents would probably flip a lid on you, or you would think they would, or the fear of the consequences that could come from breaking the rules. That is what Cameron represents. He represents us. And I know I've said that like 5 times already, but it's true. That's who he is. He's not the main character, but for us as the audience, he's the character we're supposed to latch onto and feel like we're a part of the world. Other kinds of stories do it in a different way with the main character, where you're kind of following the main character's journey, and that's who you're latching onto. But the way Ferris Bueller's Day Off does it, I think with Cameron, it's almost putting you into a fly on the wall situation where you feel like you're a part of it. It's not just, oh, you're following the main character, and sometimes you feel like a fly on the wall. But in this case, you are. You are a part of the story because you can relate with Cameron so well. And that, I think, is kind of what does so well for his character and why people think he's the main character sometimes. So that's Cameron. And now let's talk about, of course, Ferris with Embodied Enjoyment. So Ferris is our main character, of course. And what's interesting about him is because he doesn't have like a character journey. He is just an embodiment of a specific concept of enjoyment, of just having fun, living life. And it's interesting how it manifests itself because he's breaking the fourth wall. He knows he's the main character. And while most of us are going to be latching to Cameron because he's the most human-like, we also latch on to Ferris because we want to be like Ferris. If you ever find yourself talking to yourself, or if you ever break the fourth wall as if you were in a show, I do that all the time. Not necessarily because I think I'm in a TV show, but just because that's how I'm talking to myself, is by breaking a fourth wall. Technically, I'm breaking the fourth wall just talking to you right now. But I think that's an interesting way that he embodies his enjoyment. He loves life so much that he knows the boundaries of it, that he can talk directly to the audience. And he's basically saying, go have fun, go live life. I'm doing it. You should too. And the ways he enjoys life is interesting. He skips school. And that may seem like very trivial, but skipping school represents just taking some time for yourself. If you've ever had a mental health day from work, you called in, but you weren't sick, that's like what he's doing, where it's not real, but it's real for you. It's time for yourself. Or if you've ever had like a productive kind of day where you have a day off and you're getting things cleaned, you're going and doing all your appointments, and while sometimes that stuff kind of sucks, you feel like you're getting stuff done. It doesn't always have to be fun, but it's a day for yourself, and it's a day not to worry about a recurring responsibility like school or work. That's what Ferris is representing, is that you taking your time for yourself. And it can be in all kinds of ways. Maybe you're just relaxing. They have a time where they're just relaxing at the pool, or they go to a nice restaurant, or, they're taking a drive. And that can be very simple things. But it's enjoyment. It's giving the characters, it's giving yourself something to enjoy. And following Ferris is just, I don't know. I always say interesting, and I feel like I repeat myself a lot when I say that. But it's just the word I feel like that best comes to mind when describing stories like this is interesting. It's interesting how enjoyment becomes a person. Basically, if Joy from Inside Out was an actual human being, that's kind of what Ferris is like, is just mostly positive all the time. And even though he is mainly the optimist, things do go wrong, not always directly for him, but more by proxy. Like when they accidentally drive Cameron's dad's car out of their house and, crash it. If Ferris hadn't ever taken the car, it would never have happened. But he does want to take responsibility for it. And I think the intriguing part about his thought to be like, I will take the blame for this, is not necessarily because he thinks he will be punished, but rather because everything goes well for him. He is the embodiment of enjoyment. It will still work out, and he'll figure out a way to get out of it and make sure everything goes all right. I just think it's interesting how Ferris is portrayed. You don't see a lot of bad with Ferris. So Cameron is the one that we are most like, but Ferris is the one we want to be or try to achieve, because, we should be living life optimistically. I know there are some pessimists out there, and, expect disappointment and you won't be disappointed. I disagree, because I think that's kind of dumb. I think you should be more like Ferris and try to just have the confidence to make life great. I get it. Sometimes I cannot always be positive. That's what I was going to say. I was going to mix positive and optimist for a second, and then I would have said pessimist, which would not have been great. But I feel like I try to be positive most of the time, but sometimes it doesn't work out. That's okay. But try to look on the bright side of things, because at the end of the day, like Ferris, like you, like Cameron, it's all going to depend on yourself. And that brings me to our last little point, which is you are responsible. Now, what do I mean when I say you are responsible? You are responsible for your own happiness. And you have to take the measures to make it happen. Say you have depression, seek therapy or meds or exercise or whatever. That is taking the measure to make sure that you're happy. People aren't going to force you to go to therapy. People aren't going to force you to get on meds. That's not how the world works. And I think to take responsibility of your own happiness and make that conscious decision to change or to try and be positive or get some enjoyment out of life, it's all going to be on you. And it's hard. It's a hard thing. And I think that's what Ferris Bueller's Day Off kind of teaches, is that you have to make the choices to have a good time, to have fun, to enjoy yourself, to be happy. So like I said, the message kind of this movie, I think, is how to let go. And that's how to be happy, really, is you have to let go. sometimes. I think what happens is we have this illusion of control, because no matter how much you try to control things, the less you do control it. So to really try and control your own happiness isn't going to work. You're doing things and expecting it to make you happy. That's not going to work. However, letting go and understanding that not all of it is in your control, say like taking meds for depression or something, and you're taking meds and it does help, like the levels or whatever. But like letting go of that control is what's going to help. Like you do what you can within your control, but the other bits you have to just kind of accept. So like you won't ever be able to get rid of depression, but you can accept that. You can accept that you have it, but you can, so that's kind of letting go, and you can have the control to take meds. Maybe that's what I was trying to say. I don't know, but I think that makes sense. And it's like, just the reason I'm trying to say is that you are responsible for your own happiness. If you're going to take the measures to try, you also have to be willing to let go. So like exercise for me, one, it makes me feel really good, and I feel like I'm in a better mood, but I'm not going because of that. Like that wasn't my intent going in. Well, the feeling better was definitely intent when going to the gym, but the side effect was more having just more a positive attitude, having just better moods overall. I let go of what I can control. I don't know what I'm entirely saying, to be quite honest. I hope you get what I'm saying. I feel like I've hit a point and sort of not at the same time. So anyways, you're responsible. Do things for yourself. Maybe that's what I should just start getting into. Do things for yourself, whether that be exercising, relaxing, reading a book, watching a movie, watching YouTube, or listening to a podcast on Spotify. Doing something for yourself is just always going to be good, because it lets you take accountability for how you're feeling. Because if you do something for yourself and something that you enjoy, you're going to feel good. And that's what Ferris Bueller's Day Off is teaching. Do something for yourself. Go take a ride. Don't joyride. That's not a good idea. Maybe don't steal somebody's car, but, have a day. Go out and do something. Go to a pool, or go sit out in the sun, or watch a baseball game or something. Do it for yourself and just enjoy life. And God dang it, the battery died on my camera. Anyways, before my camera died, I was saying, just do things for yourself. Have a good time, live life, let go, just relax, establish that you're not in control all the time, and just enjoy your life. I think that's a great message from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And now that you've gone off my incoherent rambling, oh my gosh, I can't freaking talk today. I don't know what's happening because I didn't have a script today. I mean, I technically had a script, but I decided, well, I'm not writing this all out. We're just going. Anyway, so rating, of course, for Ferris Bueller. If you don't know our easily entertained rating scale from least to worst, it goes garbage, once is fine, right mood, quotable, go to, and all day, every day. And I'm going to put Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I would say, probably a go-to. It's a really good movie, and I think for some people it is an all day, every day. And if it is, let me know. Comment and tell me that I need to put it higher. But I think, for me personally, I like it, but I don't know if I would watch it all day, every day. But it is one that if people were asking for a movie, I could definitely be like, yeah, let's watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's the one we're going with. And so that's kind of why we're putting it at a go-to. And lastly, our question of the week for you to get interested and invested in the conversation about this week's episode. And because we're talking about doing things for yourself and making yourself feel good and enjoyment because of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, we're going to be talking for the question of the week. Goodness, man, I really do need a script. This is crazy. What is your favorite hobby, or what is one of your hobbies? For me, I really like puzzles. Puzzles are my jam, just because I like getting into all the meticulous little details. It's kind of like Legos, where you can just zone your brain out and just build things. I think that is so fun. It is great. So that's my hobby. Let me know what your hobby is down in the comments. And thank you for watching or listening to this episode of Easily Entertained. I know it was kind of a little bit hectic this episode, kind of unstructured. I mean, still kind of structured, but not at the same time, kind of more like some of the older episodes. I was just feeling the improv vibe today, I guess. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, give us a like and a follow so you can be notified of the latest episodes, and check out our social media so you can see all other things entertainment or clips if you haven't seen the episodes yet. You know, that's how you can know, because I post clips from them on social media. But anyways, that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Bye.